The GTA Definitive Editions are still garbage. Yes, I can say that even after a recent patch, because I keep finding more garbage each time I open these games up. As you guessed it, I found 101 more problems, all of which this time related to terrain, and I'll showcase them right now. Let's begin. Locked off areas are a big deal in San Andreas. You pass missions and you get access to places such as the airport. Well, in the definitive, the airport is enterable from the start of the game because this entire fence does not actually exist. Yep, this whole part of the airport does not have a fence. Even the fake fence is not properly placed. In certain places it's not attached to anything. This pile of pebbles should only be looked from above, because once you move your camera, you'll see that the whole pile is not touching the ground, but it's levitating. Tiny rocks, I guess, don't obey gravity in the definitive. Cool. At the construction site where Avery gives you missions, this ramp is transparent when seen at certain angles. It's there, it functions, just don't look at it from here and you'll be good. There's a sprunk factory in the countryside, but you already knew that. What you didn't know about is this chimney's proportions. This hole is not a hole at all. There should be a cover for a chimney, but it's invisible. There's no smoke even. Take a look at this street in the original game. I've always loved it. There's so much life here, the pedestrians, the flowers just hanging around. Well, now look at it in the definitive. There are no flowers, just boring concrete buildings. Where's the color? It's all grey now. If you go from the police station in Shoresideville down the hill, you'll notice some floating leaves in the air. They are at eye level and don't react to your movement. From the Little Broblin restaurant, if you approach this rock, you'll see how awkwardly it's placed. You grab onto nothing. What you're grabbing is not even close to the actual rock. It's bizarre. There's a weird connection here of the two patches of road. It seems like they were placed together and nobody thought of connecting them properly. They just don't overlap and produce this weird bounce. This could even flip your car if you're going fast. The underside of this wall produces a portal to the void. You can see what's underneath Vice City. On top of that, this oil slick Tommy is standing on is floating. It should stick to the ground, but it doesn't. At Emanation in the countryside, you'll find some fences. Most of them are fine, but this one? This fence makes CJ float because it's not placed properly. He can walk on it and grab onto nothing. Kinda weird how all other fences are fine, but this part is broken. This tree in San Fierro is half absorbed into the grass and road. See all these branches going into the sidewalk? This should not happen, but it does. On top of the most expensive house in Vice City, you know, a house you visit very often, we have two broken air conditioners. Why broken? Well, both make Tommy sink into them. His feet are absorbed by the ACs. Tommy is probably very cold. Poor guy. This is Torino's Ranch, a very important place in the game you would visit frequently. Looking at this, you'll be disgusted by how every single room here you see has the same looking layout from the outside. Do you want to be more disgusted? What you are seeing is a repeated texture on more than 10 windows, which is flipped upside down. That's right. Take a look at the chair, the floor lamp, which I guess now is a ceiling lamp, and marvel at this stupidity. Not a single window has it correct, by the way. You go through here in the Catalina mission during a police chase. If you slow down, however, you'll see how there are hundreds of floating rocks on both sides underneath the bridge. Very few of them actually connect to the ground. This building in the distance will turn its lights off when seen from afar. When you get close to it, it will turn them on. Such a weird thing to see when you go back and forth like this. I guess in the definitive we shouldn't look at faraway buildings now, sure, okay. We had food consuming ACs in Vice City, but now I raise you a floating AC in San Andreas. They are floating from one side, by the way, as you see, the other side is fine, just don't look at them from any other angle because this is weird. Next to the giant satellite dish in the desert we can find this huge antenna. It looks like it's stable since it has anchor cables tied to the ground, right? Well, no actually, they're just for show, they don't exist. This antenna could tumble down at any second, so CJ should book it out of there. CJ, save yourself! This is the V-Rock office in downtown. Well, did you know that there's a hole on this sidewalk? This is no tiny hole, by the way, it's massive. This whole sidewalk has it, and you can see everything underneath the world, even from a distance. You don't necessarily have to be close. There are many light poles here in this tiny desert village. I think I tested each one, but this particular pole next to a hospital does not actually exist. Very weird how it's the only broken one out of so many. Don't mind the idiot NPC behind me and take a look at the mountain next to me. There's a very weird texture, it's pure grey and out of place. I guess the texture budget ran out or something, I have no idea. You know what? No, you should mind the idiot NPC, he was getting stuck in the ground. Do you know why though? Because there's an invisible hole all over this sidewalk. The grass and concrete just don't connect properly. NPCs, even you, the player, will sink into the ground. Even if it's a 10 cm hole, it cannot be excused. But this is nuts. Do you guys want to see a magic trick? Well, abracadabra, subscribe to my channel Abra. This pool is gone, woo! Or I guess just the water is looking from below will make it disappear. There's a tiny farm in the countryside with a non-functioning windmill which was working in the original, but that's not what I'm showing you here. What the problem is how CJ will sink into this dirt hill. I would understand if this was mud or sand, but this is solid dirt, so this should not happen. This bush is very wonky. Firstly, there's a hole, just a random hole underneath it, visible from the side. The bush is placed onto nothing. That's the first issue with this bush. The second one is that it's not supposed to let you go through it. I suppose that would be fine since, you know, it's a bush after all, but the hole is just dumb. Please, fill it up. I'm at the Las Venturas University where there's a new technology of floating garbage bins. That's right, no fuss, no huss, all garbage will float and probably empty itself out after it's full. To live in the future, now we just need hover cars. Ask and you shall receive, my friend. You want floating cars or bikes? Drive into this place in San Fierro and ride this invisible bump. Anything that touches it will float, even the player. Yeah, now I can say that I'm living in the future. 10 out of 10. Great buck. Here's the construction site again. Did you know that this whole concrete part of it does not actually connect to the ground? Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I am really not surprised anymore. CJ can hide from his enemies inside a solid rock here in the desert. He can even stretch his feet since he doesn't need to crouch. A full, tall, muscular boy can fit in here. Again, inside a solid rock. Speaking of rocks, next to this one you'll find all manners of floaty stuff. Pebbles, grass, and even big bushes. It's not even a small number. This rock has broken gravity. This bridge looks nice, right? Nothing wrong with it. Well, think again. If you go underneath it, you'll find something weird. The whole world is visible from below. Yep, you can see what's over you and a bit in the distance. This should be literally patched up. All it needs is some duct tape. Do you guys see this fence next to me? Do you see two fences? Well, think again. There are 3 fences here, a transparent one, a solid one you cannot see through, and an invisible one which is, again, solid. It goes on for quite a while too, it's not even a random bump this time, it's a whole fence. In the golf course you'll find these random balls around, I'm not sure what you even call them, but it doesn't matter because they don't actually exist, you just pass through them. I know you guys are confused by how many problems these versions have, but even the in-game mountains are confused about it. Look at this guy, it grew a face to show how dumbfounded and angry he is. Poor mountains can't even catch a break. This container close to the beach is not actually here. Well, it kind of is, but it's moved. You go through the real one and the collision box of it is in a different place. Take a look at this road next to Area 69. Looks great, right? Well, let's move on to the definitive. What the hell is this? There's just a random rectangle on the road. On top of this, the original road looks amazing with all the cracks and change of colors and whatnot. The definitive road has a random piece of crap on it and it's way too smooth. This grass behind me looks nice, right? From a distance, sure it does. Just don't get close to it because you'll be lost in the grass. CJ is gone forever, let's see how Claude is doing. Well, our boy Claude is also dealing with some floaty grass. It's not attached to the wall and he can walk underneath it. I think CJ is free now, so let's check him out too. Well, he has his own terrain problems in the quarry. There's a random brown texture here which should not exist, but it does. What about these random broken down houses you find in the desert? Well, this one is floating. Yeah, on some sides it just doesn't connect to anything. No wonder it's abandoned, it's haunted, so I'll run away to Las Venturas. Here we can find a nice looking bush. Do we just walk into it for no reason again? Well, not this time, we can walk in the air. The collision is way too high and we can't make contact. Take a look at the arena fence in the original version. Every piece of it is properly placed, right? It functions like a fence and there's no floatiness. Well, the same cannot be said about the definitive. Well, some of the fence pieces are proper, half of them are not, and they float. Fences as a whole just suck in this version. I can't even describe what you're about to see, so just watch this. The stairs close to your first safe house in Vice City just act weird with certain vehicles such as the Washington. Sometimes you get stuck, other times you just stick to them. It's so random results and there's no consistency, at least when it's broken. I'm hoping it will be broken the same way every time and not having me guess if I'm gonna flip or not. Nobody will ever see this since it's so off the grid, but it's worth mentioning that this texture looks much worse than PS1 era games. That's all, moving on. Nice background behind me, right? Sure, but only if you don't look at the side of the mountain. Yes, not so pleasant now. Ugh. Get ready for something ridiculous. Let's enter the strip club in Los Santos in the original. Nothing happened, right? Well, let's do it in the definitive. CJ will just fall through. This is funny, right? No harm done, it should be kept in. Well, did you know that sometimes you could just randomly die too? That's right, the definitive edition will kill you for no reason whatsoever. And all you gotta do is just walk into a marker. $60 by the way. Next to the train tracks in San Fierro there's a floating patch of grass. Not a pleasant sight. Speaking of floating, I don't even know what this is supposed to be, but it's floating alongside some garbage next to it. Here are two broken bridges in San Fierro. Why broken? Well, in both of them, CJ will just sink in. His feet are now gone. He has to buy new ones. There's a tree on the beach which should really not be that fat. It actually wasn't in the OG, but here it grew in size. Watch them completely remove it in the next update, instead of actually fixing it. Again. Next to the university in Las Venturas we can find a billboard which is semi-broken. It's trying to display a proper picture, but it's not, and some of it is missing. Now here's a tree which should have gotten more fat. Instead they just removed the collision box. Oh, pardon me, they didn't remove it, they just moved it to the side. You often just randomly hit nothing as you walk through this area. Next to this road in the countryside we can see more floating grass. It's an epidemic, I gotta say, it's everywhere. Do you know what else is floating? This black thing, which is even sideways, not just floating, and this orange thing is also floating. The very bright color doesn't help it blend in, and it just looks silly, even from far away. Very close to this beautiful view we have a tree with incorrect proportions. That's right, you can go through it and hide your CJ. In the quarry you can see many tiny texture malfunctions. It's not even holes, just broken textures. They're most abundant on this wall, but you can find them everywhere. Oh yeah, and they can also be found here in the countryside a lot. the biggest vein of them, from what I have seen, is on this mountain. It's just so much. Right in front of the Desert Pay and Spray garage we can find a floating power line. It's floaty, but it's not even glued to the wall next to it, so it's just detached in all directions. It's not the only weird occurrence in this desert village though. Take a look at this. I've seen lots of problems with power lines in the definitive, but this one takes the cake. How can this even happen? Before purchasing the boatyard in Vice City, this garage will be blocked by a gate. Unfortunately, this gate is not properly placed, and not only can you see what's inside, but Tommy will merge with the gate. Check the original, nothing is visible and the placement is proper. Have you guys been to the baseball stadium in Las Venturas? Probably not, since nobody talks about these random holes in it. One hole is not a big deal, but there are several, and it's very jarring. Here's another problem with power lines: you can actually stand on these ones in particular. Mind you, I have only found one set of lines you can do this with. Every single other one in this game is not solid. Talk about inconsistency, what the hell? Have you tried taking this jump without a vehicle but on foot? Good thing you haven't, because you would have been petrified since you'll just grab into air. The trailer should be moved a bit. Here's something crazy to me. At a very important place in San Fierro, the stadium, there's an invisible, I don't even know, ramp, a bump, I don't even know what it is, but it shouldn't be here. I go through here constantly and I often flip my car because I can't see it. What happened here? I have no idea. These cock rocks are incorrectly placed. On both, CJ can hover in the air and even merge with them. Such an iconic place ruined by these damn rocks. Once again I found a very lengthy hole close to San Fierro. It's so massive I can't even sprint it out before the fade out happens. See what's going on? No! We have a similar hole in Vice City, but this one is underneath the sidewalk. In it you can see everything beneath the world. There's a mission in San Andreas where the whole point is to escape the quarry. In the original you gotta think of creative ways to get out of here, fight through hordes of enemies and whatnot. In the definitive, all you gotta do is just walk out. Nothing will stop you. This part of the fence is just not here. The whole mission is ruined this way, and I'm baffled at how this is still in the game. In front of Jesus Club we have some grass with weird textures. Looks bad. Fat trees seem problematic in the definitive edition, and this one is the fattest of them all. It can even eat CJ alive. It's not the first time this happened to CJ, so I guess he's used to it now. Next to the abandoned airport where the package is dropped, during the interdiction mission, you'll find a lot of floating crap, pebbles, rocks and bushes. How many trees do you see right behind me very close to CJ? 6, right? Well, there's a 7th one. Can you spot it? Of course you can't, I can just walk into it. However, see, there's something here and I'm guessing it's a tree. Either completely remove it or make it fat like you usually do, Rockstar. Don't leave it invisible, please. Wanna see some funky textures? Well, look at this. This fence is not funky from all angles, but if you get close and move your camera like this, you'll see what the truth will see when conversing with CJ. Funky. We have floaty things in Vice City too, namely boxes and garbage bags. The garbage is not that bad, but the box really needs to be lowered a bit, or maybe the ground should be higher. I don't know, it just needs to be fixed. Floaty rocks seem to be the San Andreas specialty, however. You can find them all over the desert. One place is close to a huge satellite dish right next to this road. One more thing GTA San Andreas Definitive is known for is the floating leaves. They are spread all around this Las Venturas house, for instance. Let's get away from the floatiness and go back to dumb texture placements. This bridge, for instance, if you lick it, you'll be consumed by it. Ugh, poor CJ, now he has just one head. How unfortunate. This wall close to San Fierro is placed incorrectly. It needs to be closer to the parking lot by a few centimeters because CJ will stand on nothing. I heard you guys like invisible bumps. Well, here's another one in the countryside. This will cause your car to flip if you decide to visit this place, since the bump is pretty massive. We have a pool here which has invisible water from below. If you enter it and look up, poof, water gone. That's 2 broken pools, how many more can I find? Floaty grass all around. It's here on the track of one of the countryside races. Might as well show this one too, it's right next to the giant red bridge leading to San Fierro. Not a place you normally visit, so it's not that bad, but it's still a problem, so it's in the video. Alright, what's this? More floaty grass? Pebbles? Bushes? No, something unique. Well, not that unique because everything seems to be broken in this edition in several different ways, but it's a place where CJ can sink in. He can be completely covered too. I heard you guys like air conditioners. I'm sure Tommy doesn't since his food accident, but CJ's problem doesn't seem that bad since he'll float above them and not get consumed. One thing I haven't talked about yet is the whole floating house. Well, I found one here in the countryside. It's not that bad, but it still floats. Back to GTA 3, at the army base you'll find a lot of garbage in the air on the back of it. We have some white stuff, some cracks, this orange thing he just keeps on giving. We have 2 fat trees at the golf course. What's weird is that only one of them can consume CJ, the other one behaves. Be like that tree, fat ass. Next to the 4 Dragons Casino, the pointy bits on this building are not so pointy at all, since you can just go through them with a jetpack. Inside this tunnel you'll see some pipes on the ceiling. Problem is you can only see them but never touch them because they don't actually exist. CJ's head just goes through them. This continues on for a whole tunnel, by the way. It's not just this portion. This mountaintop is completely borked. What even is this texture and does it need to be this big? Gross! In the original in front of the artificial lake behind me, we can find these empty garbage bins. They are properly textured and modeled as you can see. Now in the definitive these bins look so much nicer and they're filled up with so many definitive editions. While they do look nicer, I prefer function over form and would like them not to consume my CJ. There's a portion of the quarry where CJ can sink in, not a good look. These tiny pointy bushes are new additions to the definitive edition, and while they do look nice, not a single one of them actually has a collision. This would be fine for the top part, but the bottom? Come on, this is just dumb. You probably know about these barriers in Vice City already since they're at a very important safe house. Did you know that in the definitive, one side actually kinda stays still if you break it? It's not here, but it also is. Why only one of them does it, I have no idea, but it's how it is. And here's the last floaty pebble mess in this video. It's here close to the Clucking Bell in the desert. We have a nice field of lush trees in this city. Unfortunately, one of them is broken and CJ can just get into it. Only his butt will be showing. In the original quarry you'll find 2 red fences. Both fences, as you can see, are not in the air, right? They're connected to the ground and have a nice foundation. Well, the definitive edition needs to be broken at every corner and of course they need to be in the air. The first one is not that bad, but the second one definitely is. I can't even understand why they couldn't just leave them alone. They hurt nobody before. In this desert village we can find a rock which merged with the building. Not only this, but the collision box is not proper like always and CJ will float. Speaking of merges, this is exactly what happened with this fence and this tree. They are way too close together and someone should separate them. Good work CJ, now could you please separate me from the definitive editions? Please. Underneath this bridge you'll find many beams connecting both sides of the bridge. There are 2 beams which don't actually have a collision though, and they are these 2. Weird how it's just only these 2 and not the rest, but I'm surprised that nothing anymore. I'm just used to the jank. At the spawn location of the skimmer you may notice a massive gap. CJ better watch it because it probably leads to the void and he doesn't wanna go there. Lastly, let's take a look at these 2 trees in the original. Even here they look very off since they shouldn't be so close together, but at least I can sorta see how they could work, since only the leaves merge. In the definitive edition this is not okay because both trees are just into each other. This simply cannot happen, and it makes absolutely no sense. Well, I guess it makes as much sense as the people who still defend these garbage editions. And here we go, guys, 606 problems total, 145 of which were actually fixed by the recent patch. I still can't believe I get people in my comment section telling me how I'm very nitpicky in every video, because yes, of course I am. Many don't even get that the point of these problem videos is to showcase every single bug or glitch I come across, in the hopes that the developers would sometimes maybe find these videos and do something about it. Maybe make the definitive editions be on par with the originals, which are 1,000 times better. Despite the random hatred this series has, I'll still continue doing research streams on Twitch like always, since I found this myself with my lovely viewers mentioned in the description. Leave a like if you support this series, thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to Ola Великанин, Kazenights, Sean Pasca, Faith, Munish Puri, Pahish Sash, Chishinte, Bad Boy Hero, Jebediah, Redux, Versetti Gwen, Jim Francescos, and everybody else.